All right, today I wanted to go through a team preview page just to give you an idea of how maybe you could leverage it in order to get the most out of it. High level idea being that we want to kind of get a grasp of what's changed for a roster and maybe how that might pan out in terms of fantasy production in the following year. So at the top, we've got kind of like the record for last year, and then also the new coaches, in addition to the important players. And throughout these pages, you'll see like a new or a left if it's a departing player or coach. And then we've got all these little subsections, which I'll walk through one by one. First being the offseason transactions. So this one is going to give you a look at who came in. We've got a Madden rating for each of them to give you like an idea of how strong of a player they are, in addition to their opportunity profile, meaning their expected fantasy points. And you can see at the top, essentially who came in and how much of an opportunity share is coming in and how much is going out to see like a vacated production. Might be good to help, say, hey, these guys have more room to grow or whatever else. And we've also added them for the O-line in case they've gotten some upgrades there. Might be useful for overall running production or, quarterback sack rates. Defense, maybe a little bit less important, but is also there in addition to coaching. And the Bills are one team where they kind of had a whole overhaul of the offensive staff. The Madden depth chart will give you like the depth chart view, maybe an idea of how strong of a team we expect them to be. When the ratings update in August, this will flip to Madden 27. But we also have like the show versus last year toggle. So we can see that like their offense overall really didn't change much except for, DJ Moore being a pretty healthy addition. But on the defensive side of the ball, they definitely dropped off pretty substantially. The team overview will give you an idea of all these different fancy metrics. We have this column glossary drop down, this tooltip across the page and the site. You can just look up each of these and see what's important. And then we have a show versus last year toggle, which will basically tell you, again, how much better or worse they were than the year before to give you an idea of maybe they might regress back up or down. We also have by splits, like running and passing, etc. And then scheme, so play action rates, motion tendencies, what players get targets, personnel groupings, etc. And then lastly, tendencies that have to do with play calling, maybe pass rates. This one is a pretty cool one. It's like how late in the clock do they snap the ball, kind of giving you like a timing kind of gauge. And big changes here are usually not a great sign. Moving on, XFP summary. It'll show you who was valuable last year for this team. Josh Allen having a QB2 production. James Cook also top 5 production. But outside of that, just really Dalton Kincaid in the limited games he played, who was really fantasy viable. And then we also have like the team overall view. And again, you can see how much has changed versus the year prior. The wowies are useful to kind of ground a team or a player based off of injury situations. In the case of the Bills, they really didn't have much injury, but Josh Allen did sit one game. And you can see, well, when he didn't play, they ran with the quarterback much less. Passing production went up, etc. Receiving opportunity increased. So, not applicable here, but if Josh Allen were to leave, you would see like, probably bullish for the receiving room. And then for the player versus player, it's useful to see like, hey, Dalton Knox, he played the full season, but maybe they, some games they were together with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, and kind of how Dawson Knox's numbers changed without him. So, in this case, it really didn't make much of a difference in his production, but there are instances where, running back is hurt and now the backup had inflated numbers, just to ground them, again, back to expectation. The more important part is these positional views, which breaks down the entire ecosystem of like a running back room. It'll tell you exactly how they performed across different metrics, and you can compare to say, okay, well, this running back, for instance, James Cook, had almost all of the work. He did well with that work. I would expect that to continue, but in instances where it's more of a toss-up, you can kind of say, well, this guy's better at, success rates, right? Like grinding the ball, whereas the other one might have more explosive plays or home runs to kind of give a gauge of like who's going to get the ball in what situations. We have a show versus career toggle to tell you like how much better it is than his career averages. And then same thing with the descriptives, an idea of, running out of shotgun or under center in goal line situations, etc. And they have EPA percentiles as well to say, for instance, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, James Cook all did well under center. I would expect that not to change next year, but if James Cook was far worse, maybe they would give Ray Davis more looks out of the center. Receiving efficiency and descriptives for running backs, they are here, but they also repeat for receiving rooms. DJ Moore being the new addition, the idea would be here, well, Khalil Shakir got 21% of the targets. Will that continue? So if you look at just the raw numbers, you would say, well, DJ Moore didn't seem to do that great last year. He was only 24th percentile in EPA per target. His yak wasn't as good as Khalil Shakir. His broken tackles were fine, but again, Khalil Shakir was better. But what you'll notice is the catchable percentage for DJ Moore from throws from Caleb Williams was far, far lower than most wide receivers. So if you filter to catchable only, you'll have like a more level playing field, and that's where you can see that DJ Moore is a far better player than Khalil Shakir. Matter of fact, Shakir was one of the worst players who qualified for a percentile. In the descriptives, you can see by route type, situationals. So for instance, filtering again to catchable only in this instance, Khalil Shakir was atrocious against man, and they don't really have many man beaters here outside of DJ Moore and Dalton Kincaid. So the idea being he would probably get a lot more of the man looks out of this offense. And he also got a good healthy amount of first read looks and did well with them. Route rolls, again, kind of similar to what the descriptives show, but broken out. And you can compare DJ Moore will probably take up maybe some more of the posts or some more of the slants and how that might affect other players. QB room, Josh Allen, I think there's no one in the league with a safer job than him, but you can again look at these metrics, tooltips as always. And then we have stuff broken out like protection, QB rushing, sneaks, design runs, scrambles, and maybe how that's changed since the year prior. Snap usage will give you a graphical view if you'd like, or you can just see by position, by situation. So for instance, James Cook got 61% of goal line carries, Ray Davis got 30 when he was healthy. And all of these players, all of these positions, they have them kind of broken down. So you can see even like 2 wide receiver sets, who's going to be on the field versus perhaps 3. Contracts are very tricky in the NFL, as everyone probably knows. But that guaranteed money and the cap percentage is usually a good proxy for how valued they are in that offense and whether or not they're going to have a priority to give that person more work, or whether or not they're cuttable based off of the cap savings. So for instance, in the receiver room, Josh Palmer, not a huge cap hit. He could be cut, but DJ Moore, definitely not cuttable, and neither is Khalil Shakir for that matter. And lastly, the injury timeline will give you a look at who was healthy or injured last year. Only Dalton Kincaid on the offensive side of the ball had huge injuries, and not much going on the O-line, but defensively it did seem like they had a good number of missing players throughout the year. Just to give you an idea of perhaps, hey, they were unlucky to have this many injuries, they may be better in that situation. So a very, very quick recap of this page. I don't want to get too far into it just for the sake of keeping this short and sweet as possible. But this is just one of the many things on the website that I think is very actionable and trying to project fantasy points for the following year.